Covering the NBA for over 30 years, Rachel Nichols. And Rachel, I'm just going to say this. I've never taken my wife to Paris. I was just seeing pictures. I just watched a great documentary on Netflix about an art thief in Paris. And the whole time I'm like, he's stealing stuff. And I'm thinking, I got to take my wife there. And Rachel was nice enough to say, I've had the great pleasure of going there. And so you said it was the best city you've ever been to.
Best city in the world. I've been to many, many international cities. If you have a chance to go to Paris, not in the summer, because it's very hot and many things are closed. But in the spring and fall, it is fabulous. And there's, cheap flights at those times of year. And I'm telling you, it's the place to be. My favorite city in the world. It's beautiful.
Yeah. People may raise their eyebrows, but I think within the industry, if you ask players, that's viewed as not hyperbolic.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because so many players are in awe of him and speak so highly of him. But he had chances to go to many of those teams. He was a free agent just last summer. I mean, that's what's interesting about LeBron talking about this. It's not like Kyrie was unattainable.
Right.
He was a free agent this past summer and interested. I remember he showed up at a Lakers game before he signed his Maverick contract.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he was expressing his interest. And the Lakers definitely could have made the cap space for him and could have had the cap space to outbid what Dallas ultimately paid him. Dallas didn't pay him the max money in years. So it was all there, and the Lakers elected not to do it. And I don't know the conversations that went on between LeBron and management, but they elected not to do it. So when he sits there and says, I wish I was his running mate, that could have happened just as recently as 9 months ago, but it didn't happen. And it was interesting in Boston just a few minutes ago, Kyrie was asked about this quote from LeBron, and he said, he sure knows how to stir things up and get people talking about us, which we know LeBron is the master of that.
I would argue, Rachel, let's pretend I'm Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka for a second. And I will defend the Lakers on Kyrie.
Yeah.
Because I said when Dallas made the move, they had to. Okay, they moved off Brunson.
Yep.
Jalen immediately goes to New York and starts crushing.
Yep.
It's a bad look for Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we sat here for years on Dirk and couldn't get him a guy. So I thought at the time, you got to take a big swing.
Yeah.
But the Lakers, I could see Jeannie saying, listen, we already feel a little owned by LeBron because of his contract. We saw what Kyrie did in Brooklyn where they felt trapped. I could see the Lakers, and I think they're prudent in saying, listen, we've got a guy that we love in LeBron, but there's some maintenance here. We're not going to do that with two. So I can... Commerce is funny that way. What's good for the Mavericks, I don't think was great for the Lakers. I can see themselves talking themselves out of it.
You're 100% right that I can see them talking themselves out of it. I think it was less about would he be better for the Lakers or the Mavericks. He was a big risk last summer.
No question.
It didn't quite work out in Dallas when he first got there.
Did anybody else want him besides the Mavs?
No, I mean, it was really, there wasn't a ton of interest around the league. Obviously, he showed up at the Lakers game. He and LeBron had been talking. But it was a big risk. And it was a big risk for the Mavericks, too. It was a risk for them to give up as much as they did to get him when he had an open contract for that summer. And it was a risk for them to re-sign them. And they wanted to take that leap. And the Lakers did not want to take that leap. And there is no question it was not an easy decision. But the Dallas Mavericks, even before he got there, had faith that between playing with Luka and Jason Kidd, who had such a great relationship with him already, that they could turn Kyrie back into the exceptional player that he had been before. And it was just great timing because Kyrie has done a lot of work personally and personal growth to make him a better teammate and just sort of functioning at his highest level. And he talked about that today too, is in terms of his relationship with LeBron, he said, there's a lot of leadership things I picked up from playing with LeBron. And he said also at times in series, it really sticks with him the way LeBron would just sort of demand excellence and say, this is it, whether we're losing, we're winning, this is the time you got to go for the jugular. And there's sort of the famous story of LeBron in Game 7 of the 2016 finals, halftime, just going at everyone and being like, this is got to be the greatest half of basketball of your life. And I think that the Mavericks could certainly find themselves in one of those kinds of positions throughout this series. And it'll be interesting if Kyrie is using LeBron's sort of tactics to help be a leader and rile up his team. So that connection is still there. And it was impressive hearing him talk about it today. But he's a Maverick now. And, he signed the contract. They're not getting rid of him. He's really happy in Dallas. He and Luka have formed such a great bond. So LeBron may want him, but I don't think he's available to the Lakers now. He was last summer.
Yeah. So I had said, I think it was on May 15th, the day I said it. I think it was around there that I said there have been 10 players. We have a graphic for it. There's been 10 players in my life that have changed the way we view basketball. Kareem had the unstoppable shot. Magic, the unicorn point guard. Larry Bird, the best shooter in the league at forward. Steph Curry, changing range. Shaq, size and power. And I said, Jokic and Luka are probably not there yet because they don't have multiple titles. But Jokic and Luka are doing things that I've never seen.
100%.
Jokic is literally the most skilled big of all time.
Yeah.
He makes Shaq feel unskilled. He makes Akeem feel less skilled. And Luka is offensively, everybody talks about acceleration.
Right.
He de-accelerates.
Yes.
He's literally changed the way offensive players view the game. And I don't think Luka and Jokic, maybe it's fair to put him into this group yet, but I think they're on the precipice. They're really close. To you, what does a title cement for Luka?
Oh, I think that title would be just furthering the expectation we already had for him. We all, when he got into the league, we knew how good he was. He had won the Eurobasket title. He had won the MVP of the finals as an 18-year-old kid playing against grown men. And it was just obvious that this kid had all of the intangibles. So I think it will be fulfilling an expectation that we had of him and really bringing him to that upper echelon next level. He's never won an MVP, right? So I think that puts him in that conversation. I think, there's just a lot of things that he could get catapulted up to, from stop being the guy who just has so much potential to being one of the guys.
Yeah, there's something I love. There is something about European players. So the European, as you know, you've traveled there more than I have. The European culture is different. You have the French school system. They drink wine with their parents earlier.
Yes.
It's a more liberal, more smokers. Kids grow up faster. It's just different than our culture. The train system. Everybody speaks multiple languages. These European guys crack me up. It just wouldn't shock me at all if I went on a vacation somewhere, anywhere overseas, and I walked into a place and Luka was there having a bar and a smoke.
Oh, yes.
And it's like there is an elegance and your ability in Europe, unless maybe you're a soccer prodigy, then it's different. But there is something about European players, not that they're aloof, but there's an elegant sort of, they really do, they never ever fully, and this isn't a criticism.
Yeah.
They're Europeans, they're proud of it.
Yeah.
That's the home country. They come here, they embrace it. They love America. But
then they go home.
And they go home and they cherish it.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated by it. They embrace what we offer. They'll talk to the crowd. They'll play it up. I don't know if our domestic soccer players feel like that there. They're not as dominant.
Right.
There's something about Jokic, and there's something about Luka. I don't know how to explain it. I love it, though.
I think they're from smaller countries where that national pride is more communal, right? I think a lot of people have pride in being Americans. I'm not saying that. But America is so diverse and so huge that you don't necessarily feel a great connection to every single person in this country.
Right.
And I think in a smaller country with more of a monoculture, that they feel a greater connection to the whole than maybe we have the opportunity to do. And you can see it. Luka was asked just this morning, he's had that bad knee. He's played almost 100 games straight. And he said, are you going to play for Team Slovenia in the Olympics? And he said, if I can, I want to. That there is that, you see it with Jokic. If I can, I want to. And that feeling, I think, makes them really good teammates because they are used to being part of these incredibly close national teams, right? We've seen it, with the French team over time. We've seen it with the Spanish team. We've seen it in the Argentinians, right? We've seen it with so many guys. So I think when they get here, that transfers. They know how to be part of a group in a way that's really great. And they are so resilient to crowds. That's another thing Luka talked about today.
Yes.
Because, the Boston Garden's going to be insane. It's going to be insane.
I've seen
tomorrow
international
night.
Basketball games where there's fireworks indoors.
Oh, there are fights that break out where they have to clear the arena while the guys are playing. It is incredible. And in a place like Boston Garden, you can have players who, it's not that they get so overcome by what people are saying to them, it's they can't hear anymore, right? And they're scattered because they can't communicate the way they want to, and then they get off their game in general. And Luka is never going to do that. He was talking this morning about a game in Greece where it's just, he's like, that's the craziest I've ever seen it. He's like, nothing here in America. So they just come from a different culture, and they're used to different things, and you see those skill sets in the NBA.
So I want to finish it up with the WNBA question, because I said this at the top of the show, that I hope the WNBA is more like country music than soccer, American soccer fans. Country music sort of, they just embrace everybody.
I loved you calling out the Ethans of the world. That was perfect.
The Graces.
Perfect. Sorry to Ethan, but yes.
Whereas our American soccer fans sometimes want a passcode if you want to be part of the club.
Yes.
And I think the WNBA is in an acceleration stage, and I think they should put their arms around the casuals.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like, you're loyal. Nobody paid attention to you. She comes in. Now everybody pays attention. There's a little animosity. You've covered it and watched it more than I have. Where are I kind of called, I said when Phil Knight did his manifesto to start Nike, it's kind of legendary.
Right.
Number 9, and I've used this at my company, The Volume. I've told people, number 9 is, it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
Stuff gets messy when you're exploding and growing.
Of course.
And I think they're a bit in a messy stage now. But I think it's fun. We have antagonist I think the girls get it. I don't think we do.
I was going to say, I think the messiness is being projected onto them, frankly. I think they're fine. Yeah. I think some of the messiness, I do think, look, there's some people on television, some men, some women, who absolutely know how to talk about this league and have been great. And then there are some people who have been commenting on them that basically want to turn all of this into an episode of the Kardashians. They call them jealous. They call them petty for doing things that if you're a man, you're hard-nosed and competitive and flagrant fouls. You need to do that once in a while. That's part of the game. And then now it's, so I don't think there are some people out there who have done them a lot of favors, but there are some people who have. And I really appreciate what these women are doing and putting themselves out there under this kind of crazy microscope they have. It's interesting with Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese. Angel pointed out the other day, you can't have a rivalry that helps the game without me. You have to have the villain. You have to have the bad guy. Sure. And we've seen that at a couple of points in the NBA game. If you look at what happened with the Bad Boys and Bill Laimbeer and Michael Jordan.
It was an era.
Michael Jordan was the mover. No one's going to argue. He was the most popular guy. Caitlyn Clark is the most popular in that league right now. So no one's arguing about which side has more fans. Yeah. But he couldn't have built his legend without the Bad Boys,
what we said earlier.
Without all of that. And that is where Angel Reese, sort of what she was talking
were
about.
Essential.
Yes.
To Michael Jordan's toughness, resilience, and iconic stature.
Yes.
They were essential to it.
And a different comparison, I'm not comparing them to Bird and Magic in terms of their playing style, and maybe Caitlyn will shoot up to have an amazing career and Angel won't be quite a Bird or Magic level player. Yeah. But whether that happens or not, I think you can compare Bird and Magic to the way they got the NBA off of tape delay, right? They popularized the NBA in a way that had never been popularized before and suddenly was on TV in front of us live. People can't believe that the NBA Finals used to be on tape delay.
Listen, Caitlyn's getting them on private jets now.
That's what
they're literally now moving off commercial.
She's getting them on TV in places. I mean, that's the most important thing, is she's getting them on ABC and on so many of the sort of big, really premier spots.
People forget. Golf needed a catalyst, our oldest sport. Magic and Bird. The NBA needed a catalyst. UFC, Conor McGregor. It's okay.
Yes.
This is not a criticism. Everything outside of the NFL and maybe baseball, because of its lore and history, has needed a catalyst.
And it's important. None of this happened overnight.
That's right.
It's not like she showed up and they were like, oh my God, charter jets, we never thought of it. This has been a negotiation point between the Players Association and the league. They were already in the process of setting it up. Same thing with the broadcast stuff. I mean, she didn't change what network these women are on, but she changed the positioning they got beforehand, the amount of hype going into it, and the ratings. So I just think it's okay to talk about both. It's okay to talk about Caitlyn Clark being the mover in all of this, and it's okay to talk about the fact that Angel Reese and some of the foils that Caitlyn has had since she came into the league are also essential to this process, because we love rivalries, right? Yes. We love athletic rivalries, and I'm not talking about cat fights. I'm talking about sports. We love rivalries in sports. And we're getting that with Caitlyn Clark, and I think it's so fun.
If you pitched a script in Hollywood and didn't have a villain, they would create one.
Yes.
That's called
Absolutely.
character development. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
So great to see you again.
Great to see
Rachel.
you.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.